The rain had been falling for hours, the kind that blurs the world into gray shadows and quiet regrets. She stood under the flickering streetlight outside the small grocery store, her arms wrapped tightly around herself as if she were trying to hold together the pieces of a life that had long ago fallen apart. When he asked if she was okay, she didn't look up at first, and when she finally did, the words that left her lips were quiet, heavy, and filled with years of invisible wounds. She told him she was not fit for any man. She said it like a fact, like something carved into her soul by every disappointment she had ever survived. But the single father standing in front of her did not walk away the way everyone else had. His reaction, in that silent, rainy moment, shocked her more than anything she had ever experienced. Before we go deeper into this emotional story, take a quick moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to the channel Kindness if you believe people deserve second chances in life. Also tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts around the world. Her name was Alina, and life had taught her to expect very little from people. Years earlier, she had been the kind of woman who believed in dreams, the type who smiled easily and thought love was something warm and safe. But that version of her slowly disappeared after a series of heartbreaks that felt like storms that never ended. A difficult childhood had already left scars on her confidence, and when she finally thought she had found someone who would protect her from the world, that relationship became another quiet tragedy. Trust was broken in ways that were impossible to explain, leaving her feeling like she carried a permanent stain that made her unworthy of love. By the time she turned 30, she had convinced herself that loneliness was simply her destiny. On that rainy evening, she had been standing outside the store because she was trying to gather enough courage to go inside and ask the owner if they needed help. Her savings were nearly gone, and pride had long ago been replaced by survival. The cold wind pressed against her coat, and her shoes were soaked from walking miles across the city. When the man approached her, she expected the usual reaction people had when they saw someone who looked tired and defeated. Most people either ignored her or gave polite smiles before quickly leaving. But this man stopped. His name was Daniel, a quiet single father who had spent the last 6 years raising his daughter on his own. Life had not been gentle with him either. After losing his wife in a tragic accident, he had learned the painful art of continuing forward even when the world felt unbearably empty. Every morning he woke up not because he wanted to, but because his little daughter needed him. That responsibility had slowly reshaped his understanding of strength. To Daniel, kindness was not something people talked about, it was something they practiced quietly, especially when someone else was struggling. When he noticed the woman standing in the rain, he first assumed she was waiting for someone. But something about the way she held herself told a deeper story. There was exhaustion in her posture, the kind that did not come from a long day but from years of carrying invisible weight. So he simply asked if she was okay. That was when she finally looked at him and said those words. She said she was not fit for any man. The sentence landed in the air like a fragile piece of glass. Most people would have responded with awkward sympathy or quickly changed the subject, but Daniel's reaction was different. Instead of stepping back or offering empty reassurance, he looked at her with a calm expression that carried neither judgment nor pity. What surprised her was not what he said, but what he did next. He opened the door of the grocery store and simply invited her inside, out of the rain. That small gesture felt strange to her. She had grown used to people keeping their distance, but something about the sincerity in his voice made her follow him. Inside the store, the warm light and smell of fresh bread wrapped around them like a quiet shelter. Daniel spoke to the owner briefly, then returned with 2 cups of hot tea. They sat at a small table near the window while the storm continued outside. For the first time in a long while, someone listened to her without interrupting or trying to fix her story. She slowly shared fragments of her life, not all the details, but enough to explain why she believed she was broken beyond repair. She told him about the relationships that had left her feeling worthless, about the nights she spent wondering if she had somehow deserved the pain that followed her everywhere. She expected him to eventually grow uncomfortable and leave, but he didn't. Daniel understood something she did not realize yet. People who believed they were unworthy of love were often the ones who had spent their entire lives giving it to the wrong people. He recognized the quiet strength behind her sadness, because he had seen a similar strength in himself after losing his wife. Pain had taught him that life could collapse in a single moment, but compassion had taught him that healing often begins with the smallest acts of care. Days turned into weeks after that rainy meeting. Daniel helped her get a part-time job at the grocery store, not as charity but as an opportunity. He introduced her to his daughter, a bright and curious little girl who had inherited her mother's gentle spirit. At first, Alina felt terrified of getting close to them. She believed that if they saw the real version of her, they would eventually walk away like everyone else. But something unexpected happened. The little girl never saw the broken person Alina believed she was. Instead, she saw someone who read stories with warmth, someone who listened carefully, someone who laughed softly when a joke was funny. Through the eyes of that child, Alina began to see a different reflection of herself. Slowly, the idea that she was unfit for love started to loosen its grip. Daniel never rushed her healing. He understood that trust grows like a fragile plant that needs time and patience. He simply continued showing up in small ways, sharing meals, helping with daily challenges, and reminding her through actions that kindness did not always come with hidden conditions. One evening, months after their first meeting, they found themselves standing again near that same streetlight where the rain had once been falling. But this time the sky was clear, and the air carried the quiet promise of a new season. Alina realized something in that moment that made her chest tighten with emotion. The world had not magically erased her past, but it had given her something she thought she would never experience again: hope. Before we reach the ending of this story, here is a special request for everyone watching. Write the word kindness in the comments if you believe that a single act of compassion can change someone's life. Daniel's reaction on that rainy night had shocked her because it challenged the story she had been telling herself for years. She believed she was unworthy, but he had simply seen a human being who needed warmth and understanding. That difference changed everything. Months later, when she quietly repeated the sentence she once believed so deeply, Daniel gently reminded her that people are not defined by the worst moments of their lives. They are defined by the courage they show when they decide to keep living despite them. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who might need encouragement today, and subscribe to the channel Kindness. Your support helps spread these powerful reminders that compassion still exists in the world, because sometimes the most life-changing moments do not come from grand speeches or dramatic gestures. Sometimes they begin on an ordinary rainy night, when a stranger chooses not to walk away. And in that quiet decision, a person who once believed she was unfit for love finally discovers that healing can begin with something as simple as kindness.